Let us now hear the second presentation on the program. It is our pleasure to welcome on the podium Dan Sullivan, Deputy Secretary at the IECRE, which stands for IEC System for Certification to Standards Relating the Equipment for Use in Renewable Energy Applications. We look forward to learn more on international collaboration at IECRE on standards and conformity assessment on renewable energy equipment. Dan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Pleasure to be here today. As already mentioned, my name is Dan Sullivan. I am with the IECRE, which is one of the 4 conformity assessment systems within the IEC. Most people do know the IEC for standardization, and we also have 4 conformity assessment systems as well. I'll get into the IECRE, give you a very brief overview of it today. We'll be open for questions later on. So with that, as I already said, the IEC is 2 sides of the same coin. We do the standardization, but we also have the conformity assessment systems. So we use international consensus standards to operate our conformity assessment systems. So the 4 conformity assessment systems within the IEC are the IECEE, which is for electrical equipment, IECRE for the renewable energies equipment, IECEX, which we saw in the IRENA presentation, what is for the explosive environments, for the hydrogen, the green hydrogen. So that deals with the infrastructure equipment. And then we have the IECQ, which deals with quality of supply chain. So introduce the IECRE now. As we know, it's applied towards the renewable energies products and also the infrastructure of power plants. So why IEC standards and conformity assessment? Because they're based upon internationally harmonized consensus standards. There's harmonized interpretation of those standards within the IECRE, which we'll get into in a bit, and when we get into how the IECRE operates on a global platform. There's peer assessment. Peers look at peers within the system. So it's not externally regulated, it's internally regulated by peers. So peer-to-peer assessments, peer-to-peer judgment of the validity of certification. Try to put it in very simple terms. So the important takeaways from this particular slide is one of the major aims of the IECRE is to facilitate international trade. And one of the primary points I want to draw your attention to on this particular slide is to facilitate this international trade is something called mutual recognition. So that means if body A certifies a renewable energy product, then body B will accept that for use within their country for recognition on a local level. So that is where the peer assessment piece of this comes in, because they have to trust and have confidence in the work of body A. So in the IECRE, we focus on 3 sectors: the solar PV energy sector, wind energy, and the emerging marine energy. Within this PV system, this is mainly aimed at PV power plants. It's not aimed at the particular products, the panels, the inverters, things like that, because those are handled within another IEC conformity assessment system, the IECEE. So, bit of an explanation on how the system works. The IECRE the Secretariat will say, we don't certify the products. It is the issuing bodies that we have qualified, and these are RECBs, Renewable Energy Certification Bodies, REIBs, which are Renewable Energy Inspection Bodies who do the plant inspections, and RETLs, which are test labs. So they are qualified through our peer assessment process, and this gives us transparency. And the IECRE also is very unique from some of the other conformity assessment systems, is we engage quite a few stakeholders that we'll see later on, so they have input into the system. This helps to facilitate the mutual recognition, and also that the IECRE can have, we'll call, deliverables that are needed for the market for all of these stakeholders. So just a bit on the general structure of the IECRE. On the very top, we have what's called a Conformity Assessment Board, or CAB. They have the oversight over all of the 4 IEC conformity assessment systems. And then we have the IECRE Management Board. They make all of the binding decisions for the system, and this is derived from all of the stakeholders in the system, but it's mainly done on a national level. So they are the member bodies, or the national bodies, for the IECRE. And then you can see we have our 3 different sectors on the left-hand side. We have the wind, we have the PV, and we have the marine. And then on the right-hand side, you can see where we have our stakeholders groups, where they feed back information into the management committee. And as I mentioned earlier, it's the IECRE Secretariat is not the one issuing the certifications. So we're off to the side. We have a support, administrative, and oversight function of the IECRE. So I'm sure, as we all know, renewable energy power plants face some unique circumstances. Within the IEC standards, wind turbines, for instance, have a minimum of a 20-year design. They need to be designed to meet 20 years. So that's an awful long time to some very rigorous exposures. Of course, wind turbines are subject to wind gusts, icing, wildlife, things like that. So they're tested and designed to sustain those conditions for 20 years. PV power plants, there's issues with winds. Winds can take down these PV power plants. You have to look at the structural integrity, snow loads, hail, temperature, and then sand, because it is an abrasive, it will degrade the function of the PV panel over time. And of course, marine, you have the unique circumstances there, because you have to deal with the salt, which will cause corrosion. So it's a very overall, it's a very long and rigorous process to evaluate a renewable energy power plant within the IECRE. So with the reliability, the 20-year reliability, each component really needs to be examined in detail. So in the wind turbine industry, we look at blades, bearings, gearboxes, generators, the towers, the foundations, the controllers, and these have to be looked at in great detail and the designs evaluated to meet the 20-year requirement of the standard. PV, we have to look at the panels themselves. Are they certified within another system, the IECE? The actuators, you have these trackers that follow the sun for maximum output of the PV panels. And of course, the supporting structures, the inverters, and the cables. And then in the marine area, wave and current and tidal energy converters need to be looked at in detail. And there's also substantial issues with cabling, because if these are offshore, you have to get this energy back to shore. So cabling in the marine sector is a big issue, and there's a lot of standardization work going on in there. So just to see what the IECRE covers within the an overview of the supply chain. So raw materials are not covered under the IECRE. Components are, as we showed you before, because components play a very integral part of the overall certification of the end product. Transportation is not covered, which is a huge part, because once these products, especially wind turbines, are very difficult with the blade sizes that they become to transport these. The logistics are very, very difficult, but that's currently not covered under the IECRE. The installation is covered by the IECRE. As these plants are built and developed and brought online, then they are subject to a project certification. Then an ongoing, especially in the PV market, it's very critical to have ongoing operation and maintenance. So in the PV sector, we do have an ongoing operation and maintenance certification. So I touched on it earlier, the stakeholders. This slide's a bit confusing, but it's very clear that we are open to a lot of stakeholders. And I think the primary ones I'll point out are the banks, the owners, the insurers, and the grid operators. They are participants in the IECRE, and they're very critical in shaping how the IECRE works. So we have a deliverable that is not only internationally recognized, but it's useful on an international level. And here again, this just demonstrates and who are the critical players within, who are on our stakeholders groups. So we have, specifically the developers, who's going to be developing this particular power plant. It gives them consistency, quality, and also it gives them a resale value, because if it's a certified power plant, then they know there's some resale value to that, and it's going to be continuously operated. And again, with the operators, it's going to be, if it's certified as operational, then it's going to give them quality and reliability. And then we touched on the owners, the banks, and the insurers before. This is for them risk management. They want a particular performance, and it also gives them resale value. There's one new program we're developing within the PV side on the PV power plants, is what's called a rating system. The rating system will give each power plant a particular rating. How efficient is it? How well is it operated? What's the expected output of this? And it will grade these PV power plants. So that's some new work involved, and that was based on the demand of our stakeholders. So currently the IECRE is one of our smaller conformity assessment systems within the IEC. We have 16 countries participating. So we're really looking for a wider scope to have a larger global footprint on this. And we strongly encourage any country to participate within the IECRE through their particular IEC member body. And just some facts on the IECRE. There's 16 participating countries. Currently, we have 11 certification bodies, 32 testing laboratories, 3 inspection bodies, 3 registered customer testing facilities. This is very important, especially because renewable energy equipment can be so large. It has to be tested at the customer's premises. They have the unique facilities to test these particular products. And here are some numbers on what are the numbers of certificates and deliverables we've issued for the year ending 2023. So 297 wind energy type certificates. So that what that means is 297 wind turbines, unique wind turbines were certified, 265 components to support those wind turbines, and also 412 design evaluations. Design evaluation is done very, very far up front. So the manufacturer has a verified design before they go through the rigorous certification process. So as you can see here, I think the point I really want to raise here is that there's a lot of room to grow. And with the numbers we looked at from IRENA of where we want things to go, the system, the IECRE system needs to follow that by more member body or country participation and to meet the needs of the rest of the stakeholders. So if there's more information, I included some links here. You will receive this presentation afterwards. And so feel free to give yourself some more information on that. So with that, I thank you and I appreciate being here, and I guess I'll be open for questions later.
Thank you very much, Dan, for this very interesting presentation. And